Episode 2. I thought if I'm gonna wear the mask, I might as well still dress and accessorize the same way I usually would, even if I didn't have the mask on, you know? So, also, I think today it's kind of like a tighter window. I think there's like less face there. But the reason I kind of got drawn back so quickly, I think, is I posted that episode. I don't want to call them episodes, that sounds so fucking cheesy. But like, I posted that video yesterday, and I felt a sense of accomplishment, and it felt right that I did what I did, and I said what I said, and how I said it, and so today we're back. Today we're talking about truth. Truth's a difficult one, bro, because truth is like, I think, in my opinion, there's like two interpretations of that word. There's what is objectively correct, and then there's what the consensus believe, right? And that's two different things. That's two different things. Because if it's rooted in fact, if truth is rooted in fact, then there is no room for interpretation. There is no room for opinion. Truth is truth. False is false. You know, operate under truth. Do not operate under falsehood. Everybody has a Merry Christmas, right? And then there's like what the majority believe, and I think that's the definition that we actually operate with in reality, is what the majority of people in the community in the world believe. And I think that's why, like, you hear people say like, speak your truth. Your truth. To me that always sounded weird because I always operated under the kind of truth is based in fact, right? Or until recently I operated under the kind of lens of truth is based in fact. And when you hear people say like, speak your truth, it's because I think we've gotten to a point where we now understand that everybody's interpretation of experience and the world and everything around them is different. And for example, the Bible describes itself as the truth. When people brought the gospel and spread the gospel, they said, I'm here to tell you the truth. And I think they were operating from the perspective of belief, not fact, because they couldn't prove these things. And the Bible, like, it's always about belief, 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 you know. And I think because truth is rooted in belief, it automatically opens up the opportunity to lie. Lies wouldn't work if truth was based in fact, because someone can believe something to be true, having been lied to, operate on that truth, sometimes with no consequence. So subjective truths do exist in my opinion, but this is getting very fucking meta, very whatever. But the reason I want to talk about truth is because I've struggled with truth. I've struggled with telling the truth a lot of my life up until I was maybe 17. I lied all the fucking time. And it wasn't because I was lying to I wasn't lying for money. I wasn't lying for to get elected like some people do, you know? But I was lying because I was like this fucked up, insecure kid, teenager who was ugly as fuck and like had no social skills and was really autistic. And I was just fronting. I was just fronting so much. Like Jay off the In-Betweeners, you know? I was just like, yeah, bro, my dad is like CEO of Microsoft, didn't you know? And then like as I got older, it kind of like, hang on, I'll move that away a little bit. But as I got older, it kind of like scaled itself back, you know, where it was just like it was just little things, or like I'd be flirting with a girl and I'd drop a little lie, or I'd be like I'd meet somebody new and I'd kind of overplay myself a little bit, you know. And it was never harmful. It was never harmful. But still, I was lying, and I was a liar, and I still am a liar. You know, I still tell lies for that kind of same purpose. And all lies are trying to kind of get somebody onto your side. You know, all lies are kind of fundamentally manipulative. It's just about like intention. I never intended. I never intend. You know, I try to lie as little as I can possibly hold myself to now. But I never intended to kind of twist or kind of gain control of anybody with any of these lies. It was just survival stuff of like I wanted to fit into the tribe, I wanted to fit into the group, I wanted to fit in around people, so I just told lies. And then kind of those relationships never lasted. Those relationships never lasted because they didn't know me. I knew them, but they didn't know me. And then when they finally got to know me, they didn't like what they saw because they thought they were speaking to a different person the entire time, and that's fair enough. You know, that's fair enough. And I made an effort, like a quite considerable effort, when I turned 18 to kind of be more truthful and be more honest and be more upfront about things and to kind of just be more comfortable in my own skin and my own opinions and experiences and understand that I can share things about myself that are true that other people are gonna like too, you know. But to be able to do that and to be able to have those things to share, I need to go out into the world and fucking do things and have interests and find these things to talk about. So I did. So I started doing more. I started kind of getting more invested in kind of the work I was doing at the time. Um, I got to a point where I think I was wanna how do I want to say this? I don't know how I want to say this. I don't know what the right way is to say this because it's hard to judge without ego, I think. But let's say it like this. I think if I didn't have my own kind of problems and personality problems that kind of made me sometimes very volatile towards other people in these like super competitive environments, I think I would be one of the best in the world. I really do. And that's the truth. If when I'm able to overcome these kind of mental health barriers and personal barriers, and if I stay committed to this pursuit, I think I'll be one of the best in the world at it. And I managed to really forge some, long-term, meaningful relationships through that and through that pursuit and through those environments. And it was just because we were all operating around a singular truth that to be the best, you have to work hard. At whatever your selected thing is, to be the best, you have to work hard. Not to be the richest, not to be the most successful, not to be seen as the best, but to truly be it, to truly embody what being the best is, you have to work hard. You can't lie your way into it. You can't talk your way into it. You can't connection your way into it. You have to be it because eventually someone's gonna fucking find out. Someone's gonna look at you and go, "Oh, you're actually dog shit at this," you know. You're actually not good at this at all. You're good at talking. You're good at putting a face on. You're good at kind of presenting yourself to people. But when push comes to shove and the rubber hits the road, y- you've got no legs. And that was like something that I've always tried to avoid in all of my pursuits is when the rubber hits the road, I turn up. I have to turn up. I have to fucking turn up. I can't just be okay at something. If I'm gonna pursue something, if I'm gonna do something, I have to really, really get after that shit. And I have to really pursue that shit. And I was unable to pursue it fully and truthfully and give myself to it properly and become so, so much better at it until I kind of truth. I was vulnerable. I had to make myself vulnerable to it, and I had to truly accept what I was good at and what I was bad at and what I needed to get better at and how I was going to get better at those things. And those processes kind of then pivoted into the processes that helped me fix my life. It was I learned problem solving through this pursuit and through this competition. And I then looked at myself under kind of the same analytical lens and was able to fix those problems too. Not all those problems. Some of those problems are still there. Many of those problems are still there, but some of them have been fixed to some extent. But truth is scary. But the truth will set you free. You know, the truth will set you free if you're always truthful, which I'm not. I try to be as truthful as I can. That sounds so dumb, because of course you can be truthful. You can be truthful at all times, right? Just no, just don't lie. Just don't lie. It's like, yeah, yeah, I get that. I get that. But sometimes certain people in certain places asking certain questions, you don't give them an honest answer. And that's for kind of that's issues with those people that are kind of yet to be addressed. Let's put it that way. But I kind of have to lie to those people. I kind of have to, because if I don't, just it's gonna start a conversation that neither of us want to have, and it's not gonna end very well. You know. So I just avoid those conversations by telling lies, and that's kind of the only instances that I lie in now. But yeah, truth's it's a weird one, man. It's a funny one because it is what the majority believe, what the consensus believe, not what they know, not what they can prove, but what they believe. The truth then gets twisted and manipulated, and you get it to a point where the narrative and the truth can be controlled by powers much bigger than the individual, by groups and organizations with interests. And I think you see that all over, you see that all over the world. I think the reason things in the world are progressing to the point that they are is not because of bombs and guns and nukes and tanks and planes and boats and all this other shit and nuclear submarines. I think it's because of narrative. I think people have always understood that what people are told and what people or what you're able to make people believe is much more powerful than really anything other than fear. Fear is the only thing more powerful than belief, I think. Because fear can conquer belief. Fear can make you stop believing. And people, anyway, like propaganda and all that shit has been around since fucking, I don't even know. It's been around for all of kind of recorded history that I've understood. There's been some level of political manipulation of the masses, through narrative. And we're seeing that in like 4K, 60 FPS, fucking widescreen, fucking cinema screen, all around us every day. Everything is political now. Everything is propagandized now. So, what is the truth? And to be able to understand that this shit is propaganda, and to be able to understand that all of these things you are told are made by kind of experts in a room in a fucking, in suits, because they're thinking of these social media posts to kind of get a certain response. They're thinking of these tactics, even these actions, even this oppression and kind of targeting of certain individuals for the reason of getting you to believe something or to forget, to make you forget something else. And it's all a play. It's all a play. None of it's true. None of it is based in fact. Whether it is the left or the right, none of it is based in fact. The right is based in fear, and it is my belief that the left is based in hope. But both have been corrupted. And the right use your fear to manipulate you, the left use your hope to manipulate you. But both are manipulating you, both are lying to you. Whether it's Nigel Farage or Zach Palansky, I don't necessarily trust either of them. Now, I trust Zach Palansky much more than I trust Nigel Farage, let's put it that way. But there is always something suspicious about this guy coming up. He's just been made leader of the party, takes on a whole new social media strategy, and gets a lot of young people, a lot of progressive people to kind of get behind him. His policy is very progressive. He seems like the perfect candidate, right? And when I've always been taught, when it's too good to be true, it often is, you know. And just the same way that Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson can go on the fucking Brexit bus and say, if we leave the EU, we're gonna give 2 billion to the NHS and all this other bullshit, right? Zach Polanski can use the same tactic to spread a different narrative, right? Now, I'm not saying he is doing that. I don't know the guy. I don't know Farage. Face value, Zach Polanski looks like a fucking decent dude, He looks like a really good guy that wants to steer the country into a really good direction and to actually fucking help people and to give people some amount of hope that things will get better. And I agree with that, right? So when it comes to the politics and when it comes to the election, I'm gonna vote for that guy because he is campaigning on the back of shit that I actually want to see in the world. But whether or not that's gonna realize, let's not fucking kid ourselves. We don't know if that's going to realize itself because the parliament is much bigger than one man. The government is much bigger than one man. The the way that policy gets implemented is much, much bigger than one man. And Zach Polanski, unfortunately, at the end of the day, is one man. He's one man. Now, because of how UK politics works, if the Greens were to get elected, obviously you'd have individual constituencies and a majority of individual constituencies throughout the country represented by a Green Party Member of Parliament. So those individual constituencies would then be governed by Green Party governments, local governments, and therefore those policies on the local level would be considered and implemented too, right? Fantastic. But then the Green Party have never been in this position before. The Green Party have been a minority within Parliament, and they've never been in the position to be able to have run the nation before. Do they? And they've got a lot of defectors from Labour, for sure. They do have a lot of experienced MPs or kind of younger MPs especially, and younger politicians who are among their ranks who I think could provide a nice breath of fresh air to the political climate. But we can never be under the assumption that it's a band-aid fix, you know. Just because the Greens get in, if the Greens get in, does not mean people like Tommy Robinson go away. It does not mean like people like fucking, Nigel Farage go away. They're gonna get louder. They're gonna get a lot louder if the left win. And it's not a left versus right thing, bro. Those terms are so fucking bullshit. Because like you look at these silly little fucking Americans, bro, and they're like, oh, the Republicans are right wing and the Democrats are left wing. No, bro. The Democrats are center right, and the Republicans are right, far right, even to this point. Previously, I think they were. It's fucking wild to say, but I think previously the Republicans were probably more progressive than they are right now. But they were. Now they're pretty fucking far right. Because, like, the Republican Party and MAGA in my head are, like, two separate fucking entities, you know? Like, MAGA is, like, a whole different thing. But, yeah, I think to understand the truth, the only universal truth is to you'll get out of the world what you put into it. I think that is the single universal truth. I think that is the meaning of life, and it's hard to kind of live once you kind of see the world like that because it's like, okay, well, the world is gonna give me what I put into it. Great. What am I gonna put into it now? And then you have to make that choice. And I think that's kind of within the Bible, that's kind of where free will comes in. You are given free will for a reason. It is, yeah, you have purpose, yeah, you have talent, yeah, you have ability that's given to you by God, but what you do with that is your choice. You can use it for good or you can use it for evil or you can not use it at all. And people need to be encouraged. People need to be encouraged to find purpose and to pursue it and to kind of be comfortable with these truths, to be comfortable with the truth, you know. If you put hate into the world will hate you. If you put love into the world will love you. And people have this fucking backwards idea right now, and have for time immemorial, you know, but specifically right now, people have this backwards idea in their fucking heads that hating people and wanting to fucking deport people and screaming at people and all this other shit is gonna benefit them. I laugh. It's a fucked up situation, but I have to laugh because it's just so fucking dumb. Because like these playbooks, like these division-based playbooks, bro, I'm gonna let you in on a secret. It's a psyop. Oh, whoa. Yeah, it's a fucking psyop, bro. Like, look at any example of any country the CIA has ever overthrown. Look at Northern Ireland. Look at how the British divided Ireland and the tactics that we used to divide Ireland. We turned Irish, Christian, native people against each other purely on the division of Catholics and Protestants. They read the same book. They read the same book. It wasn't Muslims versus Christians. It wasn't Muslims versus Jews. It wasn't atheists versus everybody else. It was Christians versus Christians. And they were slightly different Christians. and Ireland fell apart into civil war. And you look at African genocides, you look at Middle Eastern dictators, you look at South America's destabilization and all this other shit, and it is always a local native extremist group with funding and with means, like, just opposes massively and creates a lot of stink and has rallies and protests and this and that to then gain control of the government, turn it into a dictatorship to serve the political and financial interests of whatever country has kind of set those wheels into motion. And now we are the country. And the US is the country, and other countries are becoming the country. And it's getting weird because then whose interests are we serving? If this same playbook is now being applied locally rather than internationally, well, you have to then assume it's the same people. You have to then assume it's the same three-letter agencies that are putting these wheels in motion. Because a majority of examples of this happening, especially in kind of post-Soviet world, in other countries, have been provably, or at least very heavily kind of suggested that these things are put in motion by three-letter agencies that are within our governments. And now it's happening here. So the only kind of pattern break, I guess, is there's only two options. Our own governments, the back ends, your deep states, hate that term because I think it instantly fucking makes people think like QAnon and shit like that. But like that's the term for it, I guess. Your fucking your back end governments and stuff, your men in suits and shadows, your unelected officials, your NGOs. Are they doing this shit to us now? Or is it China? Is it Russia? Or is it a certain another country that I shall not name? With a very powerful intelligence agency that if you wish to do your own research, like I'm not even gonna say the name. I'm not even gonna risk saying the name. I am not even going to fucking. I really want to say the name. I really do, but it's just not. It's not a three-letter, and it's not Russia and China. And I'm gonna leave it there. So, do these governments and these agencies have some level of interest in destabilizing us? What does it create for them? What opportunity does it provide them? Because there's never like there was a guy. I can't, again, I'm horrible with names. I'm really horrible with names. Some ex-government official knows a lot of shit, right? Presumably a kind of a trusted source. I cannot confirm that, but based on the kind of context that I saw him speaking in, I can assume somewhat of a trusted source. And he said he was asked the question, so how many presidents have stood up to the CIA? And he said none of them. And the interviewer went, none of them? And he said, oh, well, there was one, but we know what happened there. Like an ex-government guy saying, like, yeah, every president listens to the CIA, and if they don't, they get John F. Kennedy. Like, what? Now. That could be the truth. The truth. Or that could be something that they are trying to make the truth to then incite further conspiracy, further division, further fear, delusion, etc., right? That's the fucking fine line. Is because they figure out and they find out what the they don't manufacture the ideas. They don't manufacture the manifesto. They find the most extreme people. They find the most extreme conspiracy theorists and racists and extremists, right? And then they enable those people and they take their words and their narrative and their manifesto and they fucking propel it and they expand it. They don't tell these people what to think. They just strategically fund and platform particular groups to just create opposition and division. And that's the scary part. Is because it is it's kind of built on the understanding that human beings are extreme and they always will be extreme. And it is built off of the back of like you're always going to find division. You're always going to be. You don't have to manufacture division. Division's always going to be present. There's always going to be people who disagree with the status quo. All you need to do is fund them and platform them, and other people will follow. And it is guaranteed that other people will follow. If you give the people the promise of a better life and cheaper groceries and cheaper rent, and just things like just like when you were a kid, just like back in the good old days. And that's the tactic they use every time. And they always get these fucking boomers, and they always get these middle-aged fuckers, these 40-year-olds, like, yeah, oh, that's what I want. That's it. I want to go. I want to do that. You know. And it always ends up the same way. They came for the communists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a communist. And so on and so forth. You know how it goes. Um, Real quick, I'm gonna take a little tea break. I'll be right back. Alright, we out here, we back. So, I have myself a little cup of tea, a little snooze, you know what I'm saying? I feel like my mask's wonky because I took it off to the fucking drink and shit. Hang on. I gotta just, even if you can't see my face, I gotta look presentable, you know what I'm saying? Like, fucking hell. I can't be having a wonky mask out here. Yeah. There you go. Okay. So, this bit's like getting in my eyes a little bit. Let's just pull that down a little tiny bit. And there we go. Fucking perfect. Okay. So, during the tea break, I went on TikTok, and one of the first things that came up was this guy made this thing called KidsNet, and it's like a little Raspberry Pi that emits a Wi-Fi signal, and kids can like connect to it, and then from that they can play games, they can go on Wikipedia, etc., etc., right? And it's like a highly curated internet for kids to like keep them off social media, stop them from getting groomed on Roblox and shit, and kind of give parents more control over like what their kids are exposed to. And I thought, wow, that's a fucking great idea. That's a fucking unbelievable idea because that shit is probably super cheap to produce, like unbelievably cheap to produce. But you'd have to make it at home. You'd have to homebrew it because copyright infringement and all that shit. And I realized like, why don't we have those for old people? Because like that would be so fucking useful. Just no one above the age of 65 is allowed on Facebook, and they just have to use like Boomernet. And Boomernet, it just like it gives them the Sun. It gives them the Sun newspaper. It gives them like a live broadcast of BBC News. It gives them access to like BBC iPlayer and Amazon Prime Video and Netflix and shit, and that's it. Like you get streaming services, so you can watch your TV, you can watch the news, and you can read the newspaper, and stay the fuck off social media. I think that's like a crazy good idea. That should be like in care homes, that should be the Wi-Fi. You know, that should be the Wi-Fi in care homes. I think it's like, or like just I don't know. That's a joke. I don't think we should like legally mandate old people to not be able to get on the internet, but I think yeah, like ideas like that. It kind of it's relevant to the topic at hand. Truth. I think yeah, truth, and it allows kids to have a very accessible way of understanding the truth, not a narrative, because that's what they're trying to do. It's like the same shit that like cigarette companies do. You get a kid smoking, you got a customer for life, and it's social media's doing the same thing. Is if you get kids hooked early and you just integrate it as a part of like the natural ecosystem and the natural like kind of way of things, then you're gonna have this business and this profit and this customer for life, and then it's gonna keep coming back. And I think it's nice to see that people are kind of taking these things to heart and trying to do something about it, even on like just the individual person. This little bit, this bit here is annoying me. There we go. But even if it's just on like the individual family level, personal level, or individual like kid level, if one kid gets protected from this bullshit, that's something. That's progress. And it's just kids shouldn't have to be growing up in a world where everything around them all the time is just screaming and exploding and all that shit, because I grew up in that environment and I didn't that wasn't even from social media. That was just my fucking life. Was I grew up, everything around me was shouting and swearing and exploding all the fucking time. And it's horrible. And it like sets you back so far, and you have to like raise yourself, and then you get to the point where like, cool, I've raised myself. I didn't do the best job because I was a kid, and then you get to the point where like I ended up at, where you're like horribly mentally ill and you got all these problems. And you can still turn out pretty decent. I think I turned out, you know, pretty alright. But yeah, I think shit like that's a really good idea. But where'd I get all to before the tea break? It was talking about psyops and shit. I think. But like I go off on tangents. I know I go off on tangents, but I just like to yap. I do just like to yap, to be perfectly honest. And I think, what do I think? I think more people should kind of understand the truth of like the streets. Because I grew up not in the hood, but like the hood's here and we're here. Like it's not in the hood, but it's like the nicest bit you can get just outside of the hood. It's like we got a detached house. Big deal. We got a detached house. But then like 10-minute walk that way is the hood. Legit. So it's kind of, you know, I rub shoulders with a lot of like that environment, and I kind of grew up around a lot of those people, and they're not bad people, bro. They're really not. They got a different way of viewing things, I think, and I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. Hang on, this mic keeps peeking into the red. I need to like move it further away, I think. Hello, hello, hello. There we go, there we go. That's better, I think. Well, actually, maybe a little bit. Hello, 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 hello. There we go. But it's yeah, it's weird. It's my view of the world has been formed by like people who sell drugs and people who you know get into fights, and I was around a lot of Polish kids, a lot of Romanian kids, a lot of Persians, a lot of Arabs, a couple of Africans, a Somali or two, even here and there. So I kind of grew up because the white kids like the English white kids didn't fuck with me, you know, and they're the ones that kind of bullied me, like the popular kids, you know. But kind of in my school, kind of everybody kind of kept to themselves. Like the Indians rocked with the Indians, and the Arabs rocked with the Arabs, and like you had a little bit of like kind of bleed over in that. But I think it's because of like sports and stuff. Like the football guys kind of fought with each other, the rugby guys fought with each other, and yeah, like. But other than that, like just like regular social shit, it was kind of people kind of kept to their own kind of groups and shit. And I was kind of part of like the emo group, but because I was kind of like weird and a bit of a crash out and shit, most of the people didn't fuck with me, but the emos fucked with me because they were like anti-establishment, you know, like they had the long hair and the nails and they listened to all the fucking the emo shit. And like, don't get me wrong, bro. I'm a big hip hop head now. Like, I love rap, I love fucking grime and drill and shit. But bro, I was raised on like Metallica, Slipknot, Disturbed, Avenged Sevenfold, fucking, you know, Linkin Park, Rage Against the Machine, fucking, what else? And then I kind of found by myself, I found like Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, My Chemical Romance, fucking, I listened to Pierce the Veil, I listened to My Bloody Valentine, Bring Me the Horizon, you know? Like, proper emo shit. And kind of my nana was a dinner lady at the Catholic school that kind of fed into my secondary school. So she knew all the kids, like literally all the kids from that school, and all the kids from that school came to my school. So I had a lot of like the Muslim kids coming up to me. Like there was this one kid, Shamake, but that was my guy, you know, Shamake, Big Shem. Shamake was Somali Muslim, and this he was my nana's favorite. My nana was his favorite. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just one of the things where like they had a little like dinner lady student connection. You know what I'm saying? Because like it's weird. You find those people, you know, in school. It's weird. Like some like 80-year-old lady serving chips just kind of like gravitates to this little shit, and they have like a little good relationship. You know, I had that with like a with one of my like year 5 teachers once, you know, like every time I crashed out, Willow, Mr. Williamson was his name. Willow was his nickname. He used to play football with my uncle, and yeah, whenever I got sent out of class, they used to send me to Willow Row because Willow just knew because he knew my uncle and shit, and like Willow just knew, bro. He just knew, like, damn, you crashed out again, bro. And I was like, yeah, I crashed out again. But you'd find this political. But anyway, Shamake, this guy, he was a Somali Muslim kid, and you know, heart of gold, genuinely heart of gold, like one of the nicest people I ever met in my whole life. And I used to catch this motherfucker because we used to have breakfast like just before school. You could like buy breakfast, and then you had lunch, and then that was it. That's all the food you could get throughout the day. So everybody was like piling up at breakfast to get like bacon sandwiches and sausage sandwiches and hash browns and all that shit. And I used to catch this motherfucker eating sausages, bro. Pork sausages. I used to catch this motherfucker like once every couple of weeks. He'd have a sausage sandwich. I'm like, Shamake, bro, you haram little motherfucker. I can see you, bro. And he's like, no, not me, not me, not me. And I'm like, yeah, I fucking seen you, bro. Uh, yeah, like, I think, what was the point of that? Oh, yeah, like, people I grew up around, I grew up around a lot of Muslims, Christians, atheists. Like, most of the people that are kind of white British that live where I live, are atheist. Most of the Polish people are Catholic, and then most of the kind of like Somalis are Muslim, Arabs are Muslim, Persians are Muslim, shit like that. There's a lot of Muslims where I live. No Jews, no. There's some Hindus, some Indian Hindus, some Sikhs. There's a couple Sikh temples dotted about, but like we're a really diverse area, like a really diverse area, and it's my worldview's kind of been shaped by those people, and like not necessarily what those people believe. I've never kind of there's been a couple times where I kind of like sat down with some Muslim kids and like had conversations about Islam and stuff and learn what they believe, but my worldview hasn't necessarily been shaped by what other people believe. Well, it has because they act how they act and they speak how they speak and they move how they move because of what they believe. But it was never specifically like preached to me like, oh, be good to people because Islam says this, or be good to people because Hinduism says this, or Sikhism says this. It was always just these people move with with purpose and with grace and with mercy, and they're just good to all people, and they even if they got nothing, they'll give you something. They'll give you half of whatever they got left, just to kind of make sure you got what you need. And I never saw that from white British people. I never saw it. That's the truth. I never saw that shit from white British people. White British people were always greedy and selfish and hateful and lazy and da 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 da. And the brown guys, the black guys, were always beautiful souls. Good people, really good people. And I liked them a lot more than I liked kind of the white British guys. And now to see where we've got to, am I shocked? No, no, because the white British people, they were always racist. My entire life, everybody around me that shares my heritage, racist. Racist motherfuckers. And now it's escalated to a point where like they're saying the Muslims are hateful, and it makes me laugh. It makes you laugh, bro. It makes you laugh because I was outwardly, since I was like 13, outwardly bisexual, emo, and these Muslim kids' parents were like welcome me into their homes and feed me, and just kind of treat me super well, treat me like I was one of theirs. And I never had that from any of the white British kids ever. And just that's the truth. I'm not saying all white British people are hateful. I'm not saying all Muslims and Hindus and Sikhs are good people. There's exceptions, and there's differences in every area, every culture, every community for sure. I think it's more kind of dictated by kind of the roots of your community and where you come from than what you are or who you are. I think the community kind of makes you who you are. But at least in my experience, in my area, the best parts about it, the best people were the Turks, the Malis, the Arabs, the Persians, the Assyrians, the fucking Indians, the Pakistanis, you know the Poles, even the Poles, because the Poles, they're white people, but they're immigrants too. And God, I was best friends with this girl. I had the biggest crush on this girl. I had the biggest crush on this girl, and she hard friend zoned me. She's called Matilda. Oh my days. Remember Matilda, bro. Fucking hell. I need a minute. I need a minute. Yeah. That was the first girl I kind of like thought about and was like, yeah, I kind of, I was in love with her a little bit, I ain't gonna lie to you. And she was Polish. She was Polish. And she had a brother, older brother. And I remember I got invited around to her birthday party. And she lived in the hood, bro. Like hood ski. Like proper bando shit. And she had like a lovely home and a lovely family and shit. It's just kind of like they weren't in the best financial position. So they lived in a hood. Then I went to her birthday party, and it's like a load of people at her birthday party, and they have music, and they had a fucking cotton candy machine and shit. It was vibes. It was vibes. But then some youths, some hooligans came round at like 8 p.m. It was still light out. It was the middle of summer. It was like 7, maybe 6 p.m. But it was like light out, and it was still summer in like an evening time. And we had the music going, and we were drinking because that's what you do in the UK when you're like 12, 13. You drink at parties and shit because fuck it, we ain't pussies. We ain't America, we fucking drink when we're like 13, and then we keep going. So we were drinking, and then these fucking little hooligans came round and was like screaming, screaming and shouting and being like, "Turn the fucking music down, you fucking immigrants!" and yeah, 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 yeah. And I was like, "There's me and a, there was me and like 7 other dudes there, and at least 4 of the dudes that were there were gypsies, right? If you know anything about gypsies, gypsies, beautiful people, lovely people, incredible people. Shout out to the Irish gypsy, Irish traveler community. But they don't have to, they will throw hands. That's like, Tyson Fury's a gypsy, right? Like they know how to get down. So I look at them, they look at me. We both look at Matilda. We all look at Matilda. And we're like, I beg you, let us do something. And she's like, no, 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 no. So we keep drinking, yada yada yada. And then they come round to the fence. They come around to like the front side of the house because there's like an alley at the back of the house, and they were like banging on the fence and shouting. And then they came around to the front of the house, and it was like 2, 3 of these motherfuckers, and they were like, "Turn the fucking music down," blah blah blah, blah. And they were like our age. They're like 12-year-olds, legit 12-year-olds, 12, 13, 14. And at this point, I was big. I was maybe 13, but I was probably 5'10", 5'11". I was like a rugby player, I was a big boy. And they spit. Like Matilda and me and the gypsy boys came to the front to see what go on. And then they spit over the fence and it hit me. And then they spit again, they hit Matilda. Oh, they hit Matilda, bro. They hit fucking Matilda. And I crashed the fuck out. I started running. I jumped over the fence. I grabbed a hold of a motherfucker. And then, like, as I'm there, I'm about to get this guy. And then I literally feel like 3 people just pull me back. I'm like, fuck. And they fucked off. They ran away. They didn't come back. And I looked around and I saw Matilda's brother and I saw Matilda's dad. And I was like one of the few non-Polish, non kind of gypsy, non kind of in that area at least, like seen as outcast people at the party. And they just kind of they didn't say shit, but they kind of like I came back in the house and like or to the back garden, sorry, not into the house, like to the back garden, and they kind of just gave me a nod, gave me a little tap on the shoulder type shit, and I was like, that's my people, like I'm not gonna stand around and let my people get fucked with like that, and mainly because I had a crush on the girl, but that's besides the point. That's besides the point. Um, yeah. But Matilda, I think she got a fella now. I think she had a kid now, to be fair. I think she's got like 1 or 2 kids. She's got a dude. Like, I think she's probably married. She's Catholic. She's probably married. I ain't spoken to her in a long, long time, a long, long time. But by the looks of it, from what I've like kind of seen on like Facebook, because I don't go on Facebook really ever, you know. But I fuck with it every now and again, you know what I'm saying? And like, she popped up on my TikTok, like people you may know on your TikTok, and like her profile picture was her pregnant, so I know she's got a kid. But like, I think she's doing well, you know. I think she's doing well. I'm glad she's doing well, you know, because like I had a crush on her for sure, but it was like she was one of the few friends that I probably like had in school, you know. She was one of the few that like kind of really stuck up for me because she was the fittest girl in school. Legit. In my year, she was not in school, but like in my year, she was the girl that everybody wanted to bag. It was her and a girl called Julia, another Polish girl. And like everybody was trying to get with Matilda. Everybody was trying to get with Julia. And Julia and Matilda both fought with me and stuck up for me. And it made school a lot more kind of tolerable because I had people like that around me. And I never, ever, ever got that from anybody who was not an immigrant. I never got that. I never had anybody that ride or die for me that wasn't an immigrant. And even to this day, my best friend, my best friend in the whole world, bro, is an immigrant, bro. Prashant, bro. You watching this? Shouts out to you, bro. I love you with all my heart. And Kayla, shouts out. Fucking Abs, shout out. You know what I'm saying? Like, all my friends are immigrants. All my friends are immigrants. Because I can't find. Now, to be fair, I got a couple of friends that are like white British people. Some of them are cool. But you don't find good people here. It's the truth. You just don't find good people here. And if people knew the truth and lived amongst people that were different to them and ate the food and just spent time with people, they'd see that. But they've got this fucking mind virus. They've got this fucking stupid, idiotic mind virus that keeps them in their bubble and never lets them leave their bubble. And it progresses to shit like we see today, you know? And it makes me fucking upset because the truth is, if you're good to people, people will be good to you. No more, no less. The world will give you back what you put into it. And that has been the experience of not just what I have done and what I have received in my life, but what I've seen other people do and what they've received in their lives. Even from the hood, in moving to a different country, not really knowing the language and trying to make it work, they still managed to find a place and managed to find community and all this other shit and work and whatever else and reap the benefits because they were fucking good people, man. They still are good people, you know. And yeah, truth. Truth is the topic of the day, you know. Truth. It's not black and white. At least not in the way that it's kind of expressed and perpetuated in the world, in my opinion. But what do I know? You know. Anyway, I don't have that much more to say, to be honest. We're coming up on an hour. Um, shit. How do I close this shit? Yesterday, I just kind of closed it with stop watching me, work, pursue, be. And today, I think it's be good to people. Be good to people, be good to yourself, and go and find your truth. Don't just believe what other people tell you. Go experience, go live, go immerse yourself in culture, and go and yeah, go and find your truth. Go and find yourself. Because if you don't experience, you don't understand. And that's where truth comes from, understanding. Anyway, yeah, I'm out.